So thank you for inviting me here, and also thank you for coming to this session. Today, as was told, we are going to talk about how to unlock the quantum future based on three main pillars, which are strategy, funding, and ecosystems. But before going deep into this, I would like to briefly introduce my organization for the one that doesn't know it. So we are part of the Politecnico di Milano, which is a famous university in Italy, and we are inside the School of Management. So we have mainly a business perspective on this topic. And we are part of this big research group, which is called Digital Innovation Observatories. And our mission is to promote sustainable and responsible use of digital innovation, thanks to more than 50 different observatories on different teams, and quantum is just one of them. But so how to promote this sustainable innovation? We work closely with companies, both demand side and supply side companies, but also experts and institutions, mainly at Italian level, but also international level. And you can see there all our partners. And what we do is mainly two things. So one side, we do research, mainly market research to understand the state of the art of the technology and the international scenario of development of quantum. And we are going to see some of these results later on. And on the other side, we also organize events and workshops so that all the stakeholders can discuss opportunities in the field, and we also disseminate knowledge on quantum. So just to mention a few achievements of last year, for example, we collaborated with the Italian Ministry of Enterprise and Made in Italy to map the industrial scenario of quantum in Italy, and part of our evidence were included in the Italian national strategy on quantum that has just been released. And also we have just been nominated as Italian representative for the industry part on the G7 Joint Working Group on Quantum. So that's just a bit of our story. Talking about the research, so we have divided the research in mainly 5 different areas, which are technology, and so we do a census of all the players that are active on the supply chain, try to analyze in their offer. Then we look at the investments, both public and private investments on quantum. We look at ecosystems, so how many actors are active, and I already told you about the work we did in Italy. Then we look at strategy, and also in that case, both public and private strategies, so how governments and companies are getting ready for quantum, and then the business part, so which are the use cases announced by companies. And we have different methodologies such as census, survey, interview, secondary sources analysis. So going to the presentation, I already told you that to move from this current revolution phase to the full industrialization of this technology, we need mainly 3 ingredients, which are investments. And we have seen that in this phase is primarily public investments, which are driving this revolution. But of course, this should be more and more supported by private one, as we told in this day. These funds should be invested strategically, so we also need strategies to balance short and long-term expectation, and then ecosystem, because no one can do everything alone, so we need to collaborate and share knowledge to develop this technology. And we are going to see some results of our research for each one of these pillars. So starting from public funds, of course, governments are investing a lot in these technologies because they're considered critical infrastructure for economic growth and also national securities. We have tried to map the total fund allocation for quantum at global scale, and we esteem $50 billion in the time frame, which is quite long, so to 2012 to 2035. But if we try to shorten the time horizon and consider just the funds that are going to be allocated now on, and so we try to divide the entire allocation for each year, and we found out that almost half of this 50 billion should be allocated from now on for the next 10 years. And just a methodology note, with considering here just public initiative on quantum. So we are not considering, for example, initiatives that are on semiconductor and quantum, just the Japanese one, because we do not know exactly how these funds are going to be split. So maybe once this information will be available, we are going to update the analysis. And just a few highlights for the different continents. So on one side, we have Asia, which we think they're investing a lot, mainly on quantum communication, but we have limited transparency on the fund and their location. Then we have Europe. Europe, of course, is investing a lot, and we have talked on this day about this. We estimate that almost 1/3 of these funds are from European origins, such like as continents, but of course the approach is fragmented, so each country has its own funds and strategy. And then America has quite a different approach with respect to Europe, so we tend to invest billion with a long time frame, while America is more over to year-for-year approach, so maybe shorter time frame, often renovated. So this was for funds. Then the second element, which is strategy. So we have seen that the countries that are investing the most are also the ones that have national strategy to support the investments. So we mapped 17 national strategies at the global level, and we analyzed 11 of these. And we found out that 4 of them have KPI to support and direct the investments. And this KPI could be more quantitative or qualitative, such as number of PhD students I want to have, or like number of startups I want to get in some field, or also publication ranking for university, but also like share of global investments on quantum they want to own. But what's inside this strategy? So we took a further step and we tried to analyze the key elements of this strategy. And you find them on these slides from the most present to every strategy to the less present. So of course, they're focusing a lot on the research to develop the technology, but also on workforce development to have trained people that can deal with this technology, but also industrialization. So create the industrial processes that will lead to the quantum structure, but then has already said infrastructure, supply chain, awareness, and then national strategies and regulation and sustainability, which are less present, not in every strategy. So that's for strategy. Of course, as we already said, Europe also has just launched its quantum strategy. So we have analyzed also that one, of course. And with respect to the 5 pillars that we have identified, in Europe, 5 of them are present. Some are less addressed, but maybe also would be addressed later on, because we knew that our concrete next step on the way, such as the Quantum Act, but also a specific roadmap for each technology. So we will see what's coming on. And just few focus about the quantum strategy. So there is strong focus, of course, in the industrialization of this technology, moving from the lab to the fab. We have seen 6 pilot lines for the production, but also targets for error correction qubits. But this focus on hardware is not complemented by an equal focus on software and algorithms that, of course, are equally important to address, like the development and the roadmap of these technologies. And as we have mentioned, strong focus on security and defense. And on one side, so they promote strategic autonomy while collaborating also with like-minded partners. And I come now to the third element, which is ecosystem. So all the actors have to collaborate to strengthen the ecosystem. So we have already talked about governments, which are funding the development of the technology, but also regulate its usage. And then we have university doing research and also training the workforce of tomorrow. And we have end user companies that suggested and propose business problem, and to develop them, they collaborate with university, but also with startup, with supply company. We have investors that help and support startups and offer business guidance. And then we have facilitators like us at the Observatory that try to foster the ecosystem and disseminate knowledge. And about this, I would like to do just two focus. The first one would be on startups, investor, and supply companies. And then the second one would be on end-user companies. So starting the one, we are talking about just quantum computing, so focusing on computing, no more on communication and sensing. And we try to map the supply chain, and we found out almost 400 players that we try to divide it into categories. So on one side, we have quantum native players, which are the one whose core business is really quantum computing, while the traditional companies, we meant the traditional companies in the IT sectors that have decided to diversify the business and then entering also into quantum. So talking about companies, it's like an early stage market, but it's growing more and more attention on it. And if we look at the fund that have been raised by quantum native companies, we see that this year they almost reached the same amount like they collected in the past 5 years. So attention is growing. Of course, like public strategies and national funds have boosted market confidence, also attracting more interested from private investors. And we have to say that the majority of these funds have been raised by hardware company, following also period of positive hardware developments. And so everyone is pointing at fault-tolerant quantum computing. But talking about hardware and companies, like how these companies are distributed geographically, and also how the funds are distributed. So we can see that Europe, like, is home to many quantum native companies, so almost the same number of America. But on the other side, looking at fund raised by these startups working on building quantum hardware, we could see that we cannot count on the same amount of investments as America did. And also they have some tech major giants that are investing significantly in this field. Of course, we don't know how much, but like for sure is going to add to the one like raised by native companies. And just the last slide about the hardware. It's important also to balance long-term and short-term expectation. So on one side, it's important to like secure access to critical infrastructure, but on the other side, we have to also be aware to use like most performant platform to test and develop the software part. And so we try to map the quantum computing that have been purchased in Europe. So some of them are already installed, but some other are just ordered or announced. And some of them are, many of them are designed to be accessible by cloud. And some of them are purchased at community level, so such European level, but some other by individual countries. Almost half of these are or will be located in HPC center, so to show the importance of HPC and quantum integration. And most provided vendors are European, but not all of them. And this is an ongoing analysis, so if you want to like give us some more information on the quantum computer that are developed by this company but not yet sold, we're trying to map that. Of course, it's not always public, like available information, but we would like to complete also that kind of map. So the second focus on the end user companies. So how can end-user company approach quantum? We have identified 4 different elements. The first one is consortia. So companies can participate in a quantum team industrial consortia and so strengthen ecosystem and relationship. Then we have investments. So end-user companies can do strategic investments to secure access to these technologies. Then we have research, so having maybe a dedicated team inside the companies. And these are all preliminary elements to develop use cases in the end and acquire a long-term competitive advantage. But which are the companies that are active on quantum? So we start by the list of Forbes Global 2000, the list of last year, so the 2024. We are updating this analysis and going to release some new results in November. But so we took last year a list of Global 2000, and from secondary sources we tried to analyze. So how many of the potential user of quantum are active in the sense that I showed before, so through consortia, investments, research, or use cases. And looking at all the potential end user, we found out that only 13% of these more than 1,800 companies are active on quantum. But then if we look just at the top 200 potential end users, so really the top companies in the world, then we see that this percentage raises to 44%. So quantum is really gathering attention from the top companies in the world, so the one have resources and vision necessary to invest in this field. We're going to concentrate now just on use cases of the 4 elements that I mentioned and on all the companies now. So which are the ones that are announcing publicly use cases. And we mapped 256 projects on quantum, but almost half of them have already some disclosure on results. So we have no visibility on all of them. And on the other side, on quantum communication, we mapped 47 public project announcements. So we are talking, of course, just of what is publicly available. And we are updating this analysis too on use cases. And focus is just on quantum, so which are the companies that are announcing the use cases. This is a whole map of the one that have made a public announcement, and we are going to release the updated version in November. So the finance sector is the most active one, and also the sector that has the highest number of projects already in a POC or advanced phase. And of course, they have both the kind of problem that could be tackled with quantum, but also the resources necessary to approach this field. And then we have healthcare and materials, which of course is another sector which is quite often cited as promising because they already have some problems that are quantum native. And then we have automotive, which is characterized by few companies. You can see smaller space, but really active companies. So they have the highest number of projects per company. And then we have energy, utility and telco, aerospace and defense, manufacturing, IT and other sectors. So really covering a lot of different sectors. So just to wrap up the presentation, what we have seen is that, of course, quantum technologies are considered critical infrastructure for economic growth and national security. And so this is a government-led sector. Fundraisers by quantum native companies are increasing significantly, and everyone is pointing at fault-tolerant quantum computing. That the top global companies are investing in quantum in different ways, from investing in quantum native firms to supporting research, joining consortia, and exploring use cases. And then that investment strategy and ecosystem are the 3 essential pillars to unlock unlock quantum future. And so it's important to coordinate the action in Europe and also at a global scale for pave the way for a significant achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. We have time for one question, maybe.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. That was so interesting. One question for me on quantum sensing. Have you done some mapping on quantum sensing already, or do you plan to do some?
We haven't done, since our observatory is mainly focusing on quantum computing and quantum communication, but we are gathering interest. We see also that in Italy some startups on sensing are born, so maybe for next future we could plan some dive deep into this. Thank you.
Thank you.